Good morning, everybody. Yay. Just checking in to make sure people are still there and we're all connecting. Hopefully, it's beautiful where you are. It's a gorgeous day in Prince Edward County. We're from close to the Trenton base. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Brenda Riddell. I'm a health promotion specialist with 8 in Trenton. I've been working on the base since 2009 and with health promotion since 2011. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm hoping, just so you know, it is IC 1101 on my computer, but we may have more people joining us. Um, you know, different clocks, different times. But because that you're here, good morning, good morning. Because you're here, I would like to get started. I'm excited about today's topic. This is part of a lifestyle series. So this is session 1 of 3 sessions from our health promotion team. My name is Brenda, as I said. Lisa will be with you next week and Cindy the following week, speaking on nutrition today, physical activity, and stress, week 3. So before we get started, I do have a quick slide that we need to go through from Health Promotion Headquarters. This presentation that you're about to see is the intellectual property of the Department of National Defense. So any reproduction or retransmission of the slides is strictly forbidden. Some of the topics in the webinar have the potential to be of a sensitive nature, although we're talking about nutrition, so that's not likely, but anything's possible. So, and if that happens, it's not appropriate for children. So we ask you to provide parental discretion. If anybody were to share a story during the webinar, we understand that it is their story to tell, and so we don't repeat it. The webinar is being recorded, and so will be available for viewing later on capconnection.ca. We do encourage you to participate actively through the chat, and I can see what you're saying. So hopefully, if you have any questions along the way, oh, is it? Let me see. I will try and speak up for you. Thank you, Jess. I will try and speak up. My speakers are at 100. So thank you for letting me know. I sometimes get a little bit quiet, so I'll try and speak up. Alrighty. We encourage you to participate, and if you see, that's where the chat comes in handy. If something happens, good morning, Henry. If something happens, then we ask you to let us know or have a question. To begin with, I do have a poll that I'm going to ask you to participate in. And this is really for us just to get a feel for who is attending our seminars for Health Promotion Headquarters. By the way, none of this is tied to your personal email. Any of the polls that we do, any of the chats, none of that is kept. None of it is tied to your personal email. There is no tracking. This is just a generic poll, so they have a feel for who's attending. All right, most of you answered. And the majority actually for this course, this webinar, are serving members. So welcome, and we're so glad you're here. So for today, what we are going to discuss, we'll take a quick look at what fruits and vegetables are and why consumption is so important. We're going to define quickly what antioxidants and phytonutrients are and their role in your health and wellness and how that reduces your disease risk. And then we're going to get into the meat of it and talk about how we sneak veggies into our meals and how we might prep veggies so that we can enjoy them. So I'm excited. You know, it doesn't really matter whether when we talk about this, it doesn't really matter whether you are paleo or vegan or fasting or intermittent or feed often or Mediterranean or keto. It doesn't really matter. All health conscious diets tend to agree on one thing, and that is that you should eat your vegetables. When we think about our parents and when we were children, you know, our childhood mantra was eat your veggies. We even get the government slogans coming in, eat your veggies. And most health and fitness professionals would also encourage their clients or their participants to eat their veggies. But quite frankly, many people don't like vegetables. And in fact, I used to work full-time in fitness, and I've known incredibly fit people who just hated vegetables. They would eat like 2 vegetables. So what can we do? I'm hoping that through our discussion today that we can give you some helpful hints on some of the approaches that we can, you know, make and some of the choices that we can make that help make this easier for you. So what are fruit and vegetables? The vegetable, it isn't a scientific term, actually. It refers simply to the edible part of the plant. So whatever that is, if it's the roots, it's the stems, it's the leaves, it doesn't matter. The vegetable piece is what we eat. And the fruit is the seed-containing part of the plant. And when we think fruits, certainly for me, a lot of times we think that fruits are always sweet, but that's not necessarily true. So just to give you an example of a few fruits and vegetables, and if you look down the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see avocado and coffee and cucumber and eggplant and squash and tomato. Those things we don't think of as being fruit, and they're not all sweet. So when we think of it, it's just kind of, I just thought that was kind of interesting. Something to note as well is that coconut, the fruit part of the coconut is actually the outside the fibrous husk, not the edible part, which is kind of neat. And when we think of mushrooms, for example, we tend to think of them as a vegetable, but technically they're a fungi, and so they're not a plant at all. So in the chat, the texture, yes, texture can be a problem for some people. And so it's about finding ways to incorporate the fruits and vegetables, hopefully with textures that you find palatable. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Why do you think it's important to include fruit and vegetables in our daily diet? Using the chat. Smoothies, yeah. Smoothies, fiber, yep. Why do you think it's important that we include it in our daily diet? Nutrients, vitamins and nutrients. Yes, you're absolutely right. So when we think of the importance, you know, fruits and vegetables in particular, are full of the nutrients that your body loves. They're antioxidants, they're vitamins, they're minerals, they're fiber, they're phytonutrients. And these are the nutrients that help to keep you healthy, and they help your body avoid deficiencies, which make you feel bad. And they're also alkaline producing, if you think back to high school, which helps preserve bone mass and muscle tissue. So there's benefits from that way. They also have, when we look at the second point here, They have lots of volume, but not lots of calories. So what does that mean? That means it fills up your stomach. Yes, hydration. It helps to control your energy balance, so energy in versus energy out, especially, hopefully, without having you feel too hungry. And because they're high in water and fiber, they tend to be low in calories in relation to the volume that they're eating. That adds fiber, and fiber helps us feel full. Fiber helps feed our intestinal bacteria, in addition to pushing unwanted waste products through our digestive tract. Um, Vegetables and fruit help with hydration. They have lots of water in them, which is beneficial for lots of reasons. It's good for us to stay hydrated, but it's also good because it helps fiber do its job. Anybody know, if you think about eating oatmeal, for example, if you don't finish your bowl of oatmeal and it sits in the bowl and you come back later, it tends to look like a rubber puck. That's a similar kind of thing can happen to your intestinal system if you take in a whole bunch of fiber and not enough water. And of course, it adds variety. There are so many different vegetables and fruit that it means that we're not eating the same thing over and over. And when they study people's diets, they often find that people eat the same foods over and over. And when you ask people that, they will say, "No, I don't." And yet, if you look at their diet, it might be that they had scalloped potatoes one day, mashed potatoes the next day, French fries, home fries, potato soup. But when you look at the nutrients that are coming, that you're digesting, it's all potatoes. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about eating the same foods over and over. Technically, in theory, you could eat too many vegetables. When I think of that, I think about, for example, somebody who just eats a ton of carrots and then their fingers turn orange. For example, it's not on the outside; it's from eating so many carrots. Or it could potentially cause a lot of unpleasant bathroom visits. But typically that's unlikely unless you go from eating no vegetables to a whole bunch of vegetables in one go. That change could potentially cause that without eating too many, but as a general rule, a lot of people just don't eat enough vegetables. So Tyler says he's been supplementing with greens, a multivitamin, and a mineral and fish oils and fiber bars. Wow, that's a lot. Thank you for sharing. Now we are going to talk a little bit about that. So there are some benefits, and it's never a bad thing. And usually when you read a lot of the experts, they will talk about supplementation. And a lot of times they talk about it kind of as a bonus, but not to take the place of. Okay, so we're going to talk about what we call food first, and then supplementation being exactly that. It's supplementing what you can't take and what you aren't ingesting. So hold on to that thought, Tyler. We're going to come back to that. So when we look and think about, yep. Well, and listen, better that than nothing, right? As a general rule. But typically, if you're going to do a lot of supplementations, we would recommend that you speak to your healthcare provider or registered dietitian, because depending on what you're taking, now in this instance, it doesn't look, what I'm seeing right here doesn't look too crazy, but if we start supplementing a lot of single items, we can actually throw off the balance of our body, and we can actually not damage our body, but it can be to the detriment of our overall performance, physical performance, and how we feel, as opposed to benefiting us. So for example, if you supplement a B vitamin without checking in, so B vitamins are water soluble, but B12, for example, gets stored in the liver and it can stay in your system for quite some time. So if you were supplementing a B12 and didn't need it, it could be to your detriment, just as an example. So let's look at this slide. Antioxidants. Vegetables and fruits provide antioxidants. What can you tell me about antioxidants? Any thoughts on antioxidants? It's in coffee. Fruit. Blueberries. Sure. So antioxidants are to help our body fight off free radicals. And free radicals are kind of a threat to our body. Our body generates their byproduct of some of the things that we do. So turning food in, sorry if my dog is grumbling. So if you hear kind of groaning, it's my dog in the background, so I apologize. The body, yes, free radicals are a byproduct of a number of things, like turning food into energy, or free radicals are formed through exercising, or they come as a result of exposure to things like cigarette smoke or air pollution. And antioxidants are what our body uses to defend itself from free radicals. So antioxidants are how the body combats the free radicals in our body. And it's normal, it's natural, it's nothing to be worried about. There are hundreds, probably thousands of different substances that act as antioxidants. And you have identified some of the foods there in the chat that are sources of antioxidants, but some of the ones that we see that are most familiar would be vitamin C, vitamin E, beta carotene, selenium, magnesium, CoQ10. These are very common and you hear them advertised all the time. Some of the things that we need to think about when we're talking about antioxidants is that people think that they're interchangeable and they aren't. So each antioxidant has a very unique behavior and biological properties. So what does that mean for us, and why do I bring it up? It means that there's no one single substance that can do the work for all of them. So, and while it's true, they've done a number of studies, while it's true that you can purchase antioxidants, stop, sorry. The thing for us is that the best source of antioxidants are through food. So there is abundant evidence to know that eating real foods, namely fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, will provide the protection that we're looking for. I don't know what it is that she's seeing, but we've got her grunting in the background. So the next thing I want to talk about are phytonutrients. When we think about phytonutrients, really, what we're talking about are non-nutritive chemicals that are found in plants. So they are the things that, and we find them mostly in fruits and vegetables and whole grains and nuts and seeds and legumes. So not just fruits, and vegetables. And the phytonutrients contribute to things like color and taste and smell of the food that we're looking at. So there are estimated thousands of phytonutrients, and they aren't considered essential like some of our vitamins and minerals, meaning that we have to have them in order to survive. But the experts are saying that they may help to keep us healthy. So again, what are we talking about? Some of the roles of antioxidant of phytonutrients would be as an antioxidant. Sometimes they act as hormones. They can be cancer preventing. They might have an antibacterial effect. So there's quite a full range of roles for phytonutrients. When we're talking about eating our fruits and vegetables, which includes our antioxidants and phytonutrients, then we're talking about these are the benefits that they're seeing. So they're associated with lower incidences of all these diseases. Might be a squirrel. I know, I'm so sorry. Anyways, so associated with lower incidences of all these diseases. So for us, that's a really good thing. So we've been talking, the main point of getting to this webinar, which was how we can eat more vegetables. So I have some suggestions with regards to incorporating more vegetables into your meals, because that helps us include more antioxidants and more phytonutrients and more fiber and more water and et cetera, et cetera. I have a handout for you here that I want to give you. So this is going to have on it all the things that we're talking about just in the next several slides, so that you will have it to keep and refer back to. So breakfast. And again, please jump in anytime. Frittatas. So I love to include vegetables with eggs. And frittata is something that you can make. You can make up big pans of it, and then keep some of the leftovers for breakfast over the next couple of days, or you might have it for lunch. You might put it in a wrap. If you aren't super big on vegetables or eggs, sometimes I find putting potatoes, so cooking the potatoes and layering them along the bottom, and then adding vegetables and egg mixture and some cheese. You could put ham in it. You could put bacon. Now, I recognize that ham and bacon aren't top on the list of the most healthiest of proteins, but if you put in a small amount to give it the flavor that you're looking for, that will help you eat the vegetables, then it's something to consider. It's about making the vegetables palatable for you, so you work your way up. You could, if frittata is too much work, you could just do it in a scrambled egg. So broccoli, onion, cauliflower, grated carrot, zucchini, cheese, salsa. Adding salsa instead of ketchup is another way of getting a vegetable fruit because technically tomatoes are fruit. Lentils with chicken, roasted vegetables with your barbecue. Yes, exactly. Muffins are something else you could do for breakfast. You can, grate carrot. You could put in pumpkin, um, zucchini, anything like that. A savory oatmeal. So an oatmeal or a quinoa for breakfast that then does, so as Henry put, roasted vegetables or grilled vegetables and put it on top of your oatmeal or your quinoa and make it savory, more like a dinner for breakfast almost. Avocado pudding. So avocado and cocoa is very, very good. And you can, throw on your fruit of choice. I hate avocados. Yes. See? And you like the avocado, banana, and cocoa powder? Yeah, it is. It just makes it really creamy. You can actually use avocado instead of mayonnaise. So if you wanted to add in some healthy fats and don't want to use mayonnaise, you can mash up avocado and put it in your tuna or whatever and use it instead of mayonnaise. Something that I did with our children, um, spice instead of sauce. Now, isn't that interesting? Sometimes for some people, the sauce helps. Yeah. So with pancakes and French toast, for example, I used to put in a lot of pumpkin, that kind of stuff, or you can do it with beets, anything. You can make pancakes with beets, which makes them kind of pink. With French toast, when my kids were little, I would make up the whole loaf of French toast with cinnamon and pumpkin, and then I would let them cool, and I would put wax paper or parchment paper in between and just freeze them. And then when they were in a hurry, they could get up and just toast them in the morning. You can juice your veggies. It for some people, they're like, I really hate vegetables. I hate my greens, for example. I'm going to make them in a smoothie, or I'm going to add spinach or avocado. Spinach goes really well with blueberries if uh, if you like blueberries because it's harder to see. Um, Sometimes it does tend to make the smoothie green, and some people don't like that. Overnight oats is a great way to add in more berries and vegetables. And the juice is helpful, except for you're missing a lot of the fiber. And if you make a juice that is, depending on your sensitivity to sugars, if you make juice with carrots and beets and apple, for example, it's very, very sweet. And sometimes people have kind of a sugar crash afterwards. So sandwiches. When we think about sandwiches, I don't know if you've ever tried lettuce. Boston lettuce, for example, is really nice because it's fairly soft and it wraps well, but you can substitute lettuce for wraps. I like to add frozen spinach cubes wherever I can. Grape soups. Yes, that's fantastic. Great idea. Yes, I I puree and freeze a lot of vegetables, especially green vegetables, and I put them in my ice cube trays and pull them out whenever I'm making something. And you can do that. So you can buy a big can of pumpkin puree, not pumpkin pie filling, but pumpkin puree, and use a little bit. And I use pumpkin instead of tomato paste to thicken things like chilies and pasta sauces and whatever, which is a great way to get in an orange vegetable and to decrease the acidity of a tomato-based food. Um, Adding veggies to sandwiches, depending on how whether you like it or not, grilled veggies have amazing flavors, and it changes it, and it often sweetens up vegetables that some people find bitter. So one of the reasons why people don't like vegetables, sometimes it has to do with how you were brought up. Maybe your family didn't eat a lot of vegetables, or maybe they cooked all the vegetables, to death, and they were just this mushy, not very flavorful, series of foods, which could turn anybody off. But the thing about roasting vegetables or grilling them, or even sauteing them, is that it gives them a little bit of fat, and it sweetens the vegetable themselves, so they tend to not be quite so bitter. So grilled vegetable sandwich, roasted vegetable sandwiches, roast zucchini and peppers. Yes, exactly. And beet chips are an excellent way to substitute chips or snackable. I love that. What a great idea. Vegetarian quesadillas. So this, with things like this, you add in some black beans. So a quesadilla, for example, you might have corn and onion and peppers and tomato, maybe some zucchini and some black beans, and just put in a bunch of cumin, and you might have some fresh coriander, as long as it doesn't taste like soap. But all of those are great ways to have increase your food intake. You could add vegetables to your salad dressings. So this would be something you could play with and puree them. If you, it all depends. I love to make fries out of things like turnips and carrots and sweet potatoes, green beans. They're, again, very, very tasty. And of course, kale chips, and I love the idea of the beet chips. Pizza is another way for people who don't like vegetables. It's kind of an open canvas, and so any item goes on a pizza. You can cheat with some of these. So some of the things you can do, for example, is the same idea of those spinach that was mentioned earlier. You can take the spinach, and if you puree it, you can put it on your pizza before you ever put your tomato sauce down. Or you could add it to a basil pesto, and so it just adds a little bit more greenery, but you still have all that pesto flavor, if that's something you like. You can add a salad to a pizza when it comes out of the oven. Arugula is particularly something that we see a lot. And so it's a great idea. For people who like sushi, you can use seaweed instead of dough to cut the carbs. Absolutely. Whatever works. Whatever you want to do. You can also use the thin tortillas and toast them. If you toast them a little bit, they have some oomph to them. Yes, I love arugula on pizza. And you can puree your veggies. So for people who don't like some of the texture, one of the things, and that was mentioned earlier on, don't like the texture, one of the ways to get around this is to puree your veggies. So steam them, and then take them out and put them in your blender or any whirler that you have, and add them to your sauce. And what it does is it increases your vegetable intake. So what about veggie-based soups? So this had been mentioned earlier on about soups. One of the things, again, if you find that soups just don't kind of thrill you, something you can do is grill your vegetables. If you grill them or roast them, again, it adds a whole nother level of flavor to them, which takes away from some of the, we're back to taking away and getting away from some of that bitterness. So a lot of times we're back to people don't like that bitter flavor. And when you roast them or you grill them, it takes away the bitterness. I make a greens soup. So I tend to throw in whatever's in the fridge, but often I use broccoli, spinach, kale, celery, onion. I usually throw in one carrot and one small potato to give it a little bit more thickness. I cook them all in a broth, and then I puree it, and then I freeze them in the ice cube trays, and I throw that green soup into everything. I throw it into other soups. I throw it into chilies. I throw it into tomato pasta sauces. I throw it in everything. I've made pasta casseroles for people who have come to visit who don't like vegetables. And so I pureed broccoli and squash and pumpkin and sweet potato and put them in the sauce. And they ate them and didn't know they were eating it and told me it was good. So it's about hiding it. My kids, when they were younger, used to say to me, I don't care. Yeah, they do look good, don't they? I don't care what you put in it as long as it tastes good. Yeah. And you can I put this in for people. So not everybody likes to make their own soups, but you could take, for example, a can of pea soup and say, what can I put in that? Well, you could chop up some green beans and carrots into smaller pieces and add them into the pea soup for additional fiber and more vegetables. So there's ways to adding things in. We did have, if you look at the bottom left picture, that orange soup, we teach courses on the base, and I had a group of non-vegetable eaters in one of the programs that we were teaching. And so I brought them in a roasted squash, a Thai soup. And when they came in, and gave everybody a little taste test, when they came in, majority of them were like, I know, just give me a little bit. And they all loved it, and they all said they wanted the recipe. So it's about finding ways. Again, I come back to that roasted soup. Roasted vegetables make things taste so much better. When we're talking about pasta and grains, because a lot of people love pasta, it's very popular. Again, we're back to how do we make them taste better? So you can puree your vegetables. So if in the top right corner, so something I like to do that's really easy is a pesto in the pasta, and we can just add in spinach is one of the easiest ones to add into this. Very, very easy. Take a pesto, take your spinach, chop it up into small little pieces, and you could add, if you want, you can add shrimp or chicken, or you can keep it vegetarian or vegan. You can add grated vegetables to meatballs or things like hamburgers. So if you use the small grater, and you can add in carrots or you can add in zucchini, they're very easily added into meat and they don't really have any flavor. Fresh herbs. So again, with that top one in the right, fresh herbs would be something like basil. Yeah, they count towards your green leafy intake. You can, if you're excited about and want to try something new, you can use vegetables as noodles. So spaghetti squash is one of the vegetables that kind of functions like a pasta. A lot of times they will tell you to bake it and they'll say bake 45 minutes. And to me, that just is, I don't know, it's one reason not to do it because it takes too long a lot of times when I'm busy. You can microwave them really easy. Just poke them with a fork. Depending on how big it is, you're usually going to cook it between, I don't know, 8 and 12 minutes. And let it cool, cut it in half, scoop out the seeds, and then you just use the rest. I often make a casserole with it, or just serve it with some tomato sauce. Something that I've done as well is I've used zucchini cut lengthwise for lasagna, or with my mac and cheese. I actually make a mac and cheese. Now, usually I make it makes about 2 9 by 13 platters, but I will use a whole head, a big one, whole head of cauliflower, probably about half of a large butternut squash, and a couple of carrots. I steam them, and then I puree them, and I make my cheese sauce out of those vegetables. And I'm with people who hate those vegetables. They do not know that they're eating them. They do not know unless you tell them. Now, the mac and cheese that I make isn't low fat. It has lots of cheese in it. But people are getting vegetables and they're getting the benefit of the vegetables without that flavor that they don't like. Lisa says, I freeze the other half for another time, scoop the spaghetti squash into a freezer bag. Absolutely. Nutritional yeast also flavors for cheese sauce. It does. Nutritional yeast is a great way to add a kind of a cheesy flavor. Yep. And you can make a cheese sauce with carrot and potato and some nutritional yeast, a little bit of garlic, maybe some paprika. Yeah, it's quite flavorful. Yummy. Next, we're talking a little bit about casseroles. So I have talked to you about, for example, when you look at your favorite casseroles, maybe it's a tuna casserole, be aware that certain foods are going to add certain flavors. So for example, if I'm making a tuna casserole, I'd be more likely to add kale than I would spinach, because spinach has a flavor that impacts the flavor of the overall casserole in this instance, whereas kale really doesn't. The only thing that you need to know with kale, and one of the things that people don't like about kale is they find it tough. So with kale, you need to massage the leaves, for lack of a better term. So if you cut them into small pieces, you can't tell. Baked stuffed bell peppers or zucchini boats. So if you cut them in half, you can stuff them with anything. It could be a ground beef, it could be a black bean, it could be an egg, it could be a rice mixture, it could be whatever you want. One of the things that we do with nachos, if you look in the bottom right picture, is that we add quite a number of vegetables, and depending on what's going on, I might chop up, and what I've got in my fridge, I might chop up zucchini and cauliflower and tomato and peppers and onion. I usually throw on black beans and corn. All of those are adding lots of nutrients, and they're adding a lot of fiber to something that, it's not about giving up all your favorite foods, it's about finding other ways to eat them. Cauliflower rice, I don't know if you've ever eaten cauliflower rice, but it's really quite good and tastes almost exactly like a fried rice. Cody says, if you saute the kale down with a small amount of butter, it's delicious with red meat. I love kale myself, but that's just me. There is an amazing vegan Caesar recipe with Oshi Glows. Oshi Glows makes I have a vegan daughter and her boyfriend, and they asked me for the recipe. The Caesar salad recipe there is really, really good, and it's made with cashews. Sauces and condiments. Here again, try different sauces for your pasta. So if you have, for example, if you have some peppers, you can roast them or grill them and then puree them down and make a pasta sauce out of them. If you don't like the texture, for example, of a bell pepper. Bell peppers are a great source of vitamin C. Um, it's another way to change up what's going on. Guacamole, if you add in, you can add in onion and cilantro and tomatoes, all kinds of things you can add in, which again now decreases the amount of fat a little bit and adds up more the nutrient level. You can do things like spinach dip or add spinach or squash. I love with a cream sauce or kind of a creamy light sauce. I will use one that is made with 1% cottage cheese, and then add some squash to it and some sage, fresh sage. So yummy with pasta. Baked goods and desserts. Yes, cauliflower rice is exquisite. Yes, I agree. And again, with your cauliflower rice, if you want, you can add in other vegetables, of course. Green onions. You could add in peas. You can add in all kinds of stuff. Snow peas, whatever. Again, baked goods. So carrots, squash, beets. You can add it to the chocolate cake. Listen, spinach brownies are awesome, and it is not obvious at all that the spinach is in the brownies unless you eat them warm. So the one thing you have to do is eat your spinach brownies, wait until they're cold. If you reduce cream, Cody says, if you reduce the cream and slowly add pureed kale, onions, and other greens with garlic, it makes a scrumptious pesto substitute. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, and you can, black green brownies are the same. You know what? You can do black green brownies and spinach all in the same go. Yum. So, just a couple of suggestions, and I do here have another handout for you. So, overstuff. My goodness me. So this is about prepping and enjoying vegetables. Stop. Goodness. Alrighty. So this is kind of a 3 or 4 step process. So the first one here is to challenge yourself. And so I'm challenging you to choose a vegetable you haven't tried, or maybe you're afraid to try, because they know that the more often you're exposed to something, the less likely you are to not like it. So if I think about myself, for example, when I was a kid, I didn't like broccoli. And yeah, I think my dog, maybe she is getting hungry with all this talk of food. But I think of myself when I was a kid, I didn't like broccoli. And my grandmother back then made this broccoli casserole that has, I think it's chicken soup and cheese and mayonnaise, and you bake it, and then it's got a breadcrumb and Parmesan topping. Well, I really liked the sauce, and so eventually started liking the vegetable. So it's about playing with this. And then you'll see here in your handout, I've included two, I think the least bitter to the most bitter type vegetables. Spinach and asparagus and broccoli are some of the least bitter vegetables. The second part of this is to add something that's complementary to your vegetables. So depending on what kind of flavors you like, you might add something spicy, such as, crushed red pepper flakes, or smoked paprika, or lots of pepper, or chopped garlic, or ginger, or cumin, or something like that. You might like something that's sour, so fresh lemon or lime juice, or vinegar, wine, something like that. Or you might go with a salty flavor, which is examples would be Dijon mustard, or capers, or olives, or maybe you like them all. But find something that complements the vegetable that makes it more appealing for you. Asparagus, oh, look at that. I used to despise asparagus, but now it's my go-to veggie. Asparagus with a little soy sauce, peanut butter, and green onions on the top. Now that's interesting. So for somebody who really doesn't like asparagus, another way to do it is to wrap it in bacon and put it on the barbecue and add a little bit of Parmesan cheese to it. I found for people, we had somebody at work who, yeah, I know. I had somebody at work who hated asparagus, and then she told me she went home after I brought it in for one of the foods we're talking, the true. We had a luncheon where everybody brought in food, and I brought in this asparagus, and we barbecued it. And she went home and told her husband she wanted to buy some asparagus. She said he was very, very surprised. A little bit of bacon can help you. And this is where we're talking about that additional support piece. So what else can you put on it that will make you eat it, that will help you enjoy it? Because the bottom line is, if it tastes like hay, you're not going to eat it. It doesn't matter how good it is for you, you're not going to eat it. So this is about finding ways to make it palatable and enjoyable. And so are you a sweet and sour kind of person, and want to add maple syrup or honey, or something that's a little bit sour? Or do you want more fat? So you might look at things like bacon, or avocado, or tahini, or cheese, or butter, right? Parmesan asparagus, exactly. All of these things are ways to add in a little bit so that it encourages you to eat it. And then, of course, think about the serving method. So I think back to when I was a kid, for example, I only liked raw carrots, and my brother only liked cooked carrots. So it's about finding, sometimes you like the vegetable if it's raw, and sometimes you like it if it's cooked a different way. Prosciutto around asparagus is yummy too. It cooks a little faster. It does. Yes. Yes, it does. Good idea, Lisa. So this is encouraging you to think about all the different ways. Do you want to eat it raw? Do you want to steam it? Do you want to saute it? Do you want to bake it? Do you want to roast it, or do you want to grill it? And again, I come back to roasting and grilling. This is where you're adding a little bit of fat to the food, and those things tend to make them a little bit sweeter and often a little bit more palatable for people who don't like vegetables. So we know that by adding more fruits and vegetables, it means that we have a better overall diet. And really, when we're talking about fruits and vegetables, we're hoping that they become the foundation of your diet. So some of the key points that we've chatted about over the course of this past hour almost is that when we're looking at this, and I want you to remember, is that this is not about being perfect. So don't try to be overly rigid about how you approach to change and adding in more vegetables. This is about being adventurous and trying new things. And it's not about, well, somebody else eats, 9 fruits and vegetables a day and I only eat 2. Well, you start where you are. If you don't eat any, by adding 1 in, you're making a change. And you want to be kind to yourself and not worry about being perfect. So I just wanted to remind you about all the wonders of vegetables. So when we're talking about some quick tips, try not to let yourself get too hungry, because if you do, we tend to take the fast way out. Think about trying something new. So if you only ever had kale in a salad and you didn't like it, it doesn't mean that you don't necessarily want to eat kale. It just means that a kale salad right now isn't the right thing for you. Try and choose fruits and vegetables that have lots of color, because you're going to get access to more of the nutrients that we need to be healthy and well. Look at adding beans and legumes as part of your diet. Remember that portion sizes are important depending on what it is that you're eating. We know that adding fruits and vegetables includes both soluble and insoluble fiber, so you want to make sure that you're getting enough water. Try and make it look appealing. So food that doesn't look good, it really makes it hard to want to eat it. So try and figure out a way to do something nice for yourself. Make sure you're getting enough protein, but eat some vegetarian dishes. Make sure you're getting healthy fats such as avocados and nuts and seeds, in addition to something like a salmon if you want. You're going to look at making choices that include lots of antioxidants. So berries are a wonderful source of antioxidants. Right now with COVID, shopping local may be a little bit more difficult, but you know what? If you have a chance, ask somebody else. Ask them what their suggestions are for foods or how to cook them. Endives, for example, are lovely with a little bit of oil cut in half, a little bit of oil, and roasted on the grill. Yum. Choose whole fresh fruit over juice and vegetables, and eat in season. Garlic is wonderful. Onions. Look at adding things like flax seeds and chia seeds. Oh, and ginger, yummy. Vibrant orange vegetables and fruit increases your beta-carotene intake. You're going to up your mineral intake through greens. Don't be afraid to share your favorite recipes. Cruciferous vegetables are really good sources of vitamin K and are wonderful for your intestinal health. Every time you look to eat, one of the things that I usually encourage people to ask themselves is, how can I add more greens? It tends to be the thing that we eat the least of, and one of the things that can benefit us the most. And eat lots of vitamin C rich foods. So this is not about success or failure. This is about small changes that are enjoyable for you. So as we come towards the end of the session, I do have 2 more polls that I've been asked to have you answer, if you wouldn't mind. And the last one is how satisfied you are with the Demio platform. We do have a number of resources that are available for you. These are more specific, or excuse me, they're not specific to the session that I taught today, but are just general resources. That's SIFMAP, Candace Suicide Hotline, family information, COVID information, sexual misconduct response center, kids help phone. Those are all available for you. And again, they're located on the CAF connection if you want. Next week is physical activity and stress with Lisa. And if you wish to contact us directly, right now we're at hptrenton2@gmail.com. So with that, I would like to thank you. And if you have any questions, thank you so much. Oh, that's good. I thank you for sharing, because that's how we get to find out what other people are doing. It's been wonderful. And again, if you have any questions or whatever, I'll stay on for a minute or so, and you can ask. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. I'm so glad. Wonderful. If you email us at hp2trenton@gmail.com if you have any questions, I'm happy to share them. Have a great day, Lisa. Oh my goodness. What is up with you? Oh my gosh. My goodness. Alrighty. Okay, if we don't have any questions, I will say goodbye. Take care.